Welcome to a biochar making demonstration with Jenna and Brien. First, we're gonna go over some of the equipment and thoughts to prepare for a successful biochar burn. Brien.
Well, let's look over here at this rot in the center of that alder tree, and you can see that brown spot. So I kind of identified a dead top, and since I didn't want to have to climb it or do something like falling something that's rotten, I said let's take that out, and there wasn't a problem with that. So we'll bust this up with the hydraulic splitter, and we'll keep the pristine firewood. There's our
Stack.
1 year curing in progress. We went through here and we're looking for dead trees, and I was pretty sure that cherry tree, it's about 6 inches at the butt maybe. It was alive, but we're gonna have to figure out how to get that to go back into the bush there, because we saved this birch and a oak tree and a cascara, and so yeah, if we brought it this way we might smash those or ding the building. This rotten, and this has some indications of not being healthy, so this is the one that I had noticed had a dead top. So
That's going to be biochar.
yeah, because you dry wood that's already dead for a year, and then it's past prime and kind of punky.
Useless.
Yeah.
And now this is, because this has been down for a while, deer came around to clean off all the ivy. And all of this ivy bark we're also using to make biochar, because it's an abundant available resource that doesn't make good firewood, but it's biomass that turns into charcoal.
And this little wood here, although it's green, it does keep the char burn going.
Now this looks like a huge pile here, but amassing as much burnable available waste. A lot of it's dead and it was in the wood, so it took a couple days to procure it and cut it to size. But this stuff is punky but dry, because we want to establish high heat in the bottom of our barrel. And this heavy thick steel barrel, we've gotten probably about 30 burns out of, maybe even more. So that nice thick steel, cut the top off, and it creates a really nice char kiln.
And as you'll see later in the video, we cross stack pieces like this and put things on top, and then, like I was saying about the little sticks of ivy twigs, they fall down between what we make kind of a grate with lots of heat in there, and those pieces fall down between the wood that is drying, curing, losing its moisture, and they keep the lower fire going. You're throwing little pieces of wood onto hot coals,
And that's why we have specifically a pile here of very dry kindling like material to initially create the fire. But we were going over equipment. We also have a propane tank, a torch, and that is used to maintain that heat until we have a established flame, but it also decreases smoke.
DR Power Wagon with the customized stake bed addition.
Yep, that's useful.
A new one of those at DR is $2,000.
So we're just lucky to have that to haul loads through uneven ground. Okay, what other
We
tools?
refer to this as a sawbuck,
Yes.
and we're basically taking anything that isn't brush and throwing it in here, throw a rope around it so the wood doesn't get squirrely with chainsaw cuts. And these are here so that we don't have to bend
Over. Yeah, so these are great catcher carts. And now you want to look at some of your saws.
Well, I was going to say,
Oh,
like that cherry tree, uh, this goes around the tree as far as this
we'd use that pole.
fiberglass pole, which is for pole vaulting. But I put this hook on it, so we put that hook on that end, go up and
hook it into a tree. What we're going to do with this cherry, where'd she go?
And then
oh, she's up there.
Block and Tackle is going to pull that back into that cedar tree. Okay. So that's probably going to be the initial walkthrough on
what we're going to do, how we have things set up. It looks chaotic, but it's going to work. So
like Jenna was saying, the first process is all this little dead twigs. You get your initial fire going, and that way the bottom 6 inches of charcoal is not going to have a lot of green, uncharred wood. And it gets going quite readily without the addition of the propane weed burner, and it doesn't smoke. And then once you have all that hot coals, you can start adding some somewhat green or full of water, punky, rotten. Dry it out a little bit on top until
it falls in. Yeah. So how long is this process overall?
I think you could count on, in order to fill that up, basically, we're going to say that's 45 gallons of charcoal. It takes about 8 hours. So we will be out here post dinner time probably, putting water on it and finishing it.
To extinguish. That's right. Okay.
You can also get a 6-pack of beer and some lawn chairs.
Yeah.
And enjoy that last half an hour of a fire on top of the last remaining uncharred pieces. Still creates a fire, and while you're warming your toes and all that, you begin the water process. That takes about 20 minutes, and it extinguishes.
And then you could just walk away.
Go home.
Okay. All right. So that's part 1. Okay, step one. There's about that much dry material in the barrel, and the propane makes this pretty easy to start. There we go. A little bit of smoke. There we go. Some nice flame. And we're going to start multitasking now in processing. Brian's probably going to be chopping up more logs as we get this going. I'm going to tend and add more dry material and get a nice even burn at the bottom. Alright, so this is a good example of what we're looking. This is a good beginning. The shape of the barrel somehow brings the oxygen up to the top, and that's what we want, the flame at the top. And we're getting into this pile here. We have flame established. We don't need the propane at this point. And just keep throwing it on. When all the material is gathered around, it makes it go quicker. Okay, we are about 1.5 hours into this burn, and it happens to be our lunch breakfast, and so we'd like to just sit down and enjoy it for at least a half hour. It would be great, but we need the heat. So how do we accelerate this situation? I mean, it looks good. However, we've figured out the electric leaf blower, propped up, plugged in, makes like a bunch of noise, but you'll see what it does. It accelerates and it brings a lot of air to the flame cap. And
It's supposed to be denied oxygen, but we're supposed to get rid of all this waste material that us Pacific Northwesters are inundated with.
we want this to all go away and get as much char as we can out of it.
If we lived in New Mexico, they'd say, oh, that's prime firewood. So I'll be the first to admit, they'll say the same thing about lumber. They'll use it over 3 or 4 times, pulling nails.
It's been sitting around.
But
that's
we
all the
just
yeah.
are spoiled.
So this is, it's loud, but it also does blow the ash off, but whoa, look at that. And it does eliminate the smoke, and it makes the stuff burn faster. Yeah, I don't like the noise, but it works. So we use that. Look at them go. It's hot over there. So I'm backing off, and Brian wanted to take a quick snap at our lunch because our friend wanted me to describe what I did for that pot roast, and I cooked some potatoes, onions, carrots. I put a pepper in, and that's just a garnish on top with an egg on top and horseradish. But I did that pot roast for about 8 hours. Oh yeah. Oh sorry. Okay. Yeah. So the hook'em snivvy works great. You don't have to get too close.
And of course, all these carts and wagons, you're wondering who could ever have all these. Well, it's after you've accumulated, clearly the guy that bought this is dead. The guy that bought it at his yard sale is dead. But that doesn't mean Jenna's not going to put a new handle on it.
Yep.
These things are beyond handy. This is probably for picking up manure out of sawdust or pushing sawdust around. Farmers get big truckloads of sawdust delivered.
Yep, that's a good tool. It's a little heavy, but Brian can handle it. Okay, lunch is over, and this is what the fire looks like. We are at 2 hours into this burn. This is going to demonstrate a phase in which you're lifting the unburnt pieces at the bottom up to the top. And how are we going to do that? What kind of tools do you need? Well, Brian has a big ass crowbar.
But you have to wear gloves, not because this gets hot, because there's quite a bit of heat down in here.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is really good for the motivation, knowing that you are getting a lot of nice crunchy sounding material down there. Because some days, you know, it is soaking wet and raining and all the wood is green, none of it's dry. And sometimes there's big chunks down in there that do not work towards the desired 100% charcoal.
Right, right. But we're, I don't know, about half.
And it just pulls the big pieces up
Lift them up
and try and get the finished material,
to drop down.
well, and to one end.
Oh, right. Yeah, to either end of the barrel. So we have a nice even.
A hole to have the stuff fall into.
Right. Looks good. Good?
You know, some people would say, well, you let your fire go out. But that's why we keep material on wheels.
On wheels.
And, you know, this stuff was out in the woods, probably up on a tree and lower limbs, and we just cut this down yesterday. It's been dead a very long time. So we're trying to get some pieces that are long enough. Which that one isn't. That one isn't. They're all too short.
Oh. This one's kind of nice. No.
Anyway, they're all too short. But it is not an exact science. I'm just wanting to point out that this material is going to catch, and we can go back to burning that green
Brush.
branchy stuff. If we threw that on, it would smoke like hell. But give this a few minutes, and there's going to be so much heat that it is basically a furnace. And if there was a little smoke, you could put the air on it.
The weed blower.
The leaf blower.
Yeah.
In the event that,
Leaf blower.
you know, because we've made these videos before and people say, what are you doing? You're breaking the laws of biochar. By doing stuff like taking a hose to the burning fire the law that we broke was apparently...
I think I deleted that one.
Yeah, I can't remember what law we were breaking, but it's not an exact science. What is important is that I don't have to have people say, I've never worked so hard in my life as the day I went to go and make some biochar. So we're trying to reduce the amount of trouble.
Oh, there's a chunk. Yeah. Pitchforks are really great for handling blackberries you want to make disappear. This way they can cut, you can kind of tumble it up and not handle the blackberries, but just grab them with the pitchfork and throw them on.
And you know, having talked to people with sawdust between their ears, kind of woodsy, some of this could just be conjecture or wives' tales, but I'm hauling brush and blackberry brambles, and the guy said, you know what I do is I just put it all in a great big pile, try and get as much of it all going in one direction, dice it with a chainsaw. Now it's all something that I can pick up with a pitchfork and throw onto the truck. So that's what we did here. These are 6-7 feet long, all orientated this way, and the chainsaw will just rip it into things that end up like this.
Tangled, and it's easy to grab with a pitchfork.
Manageable. So what we got here is green wood.
Some dry.
We aren't, well, we tried to separate. But, you know, we don't want to burn it right away. We want the heat of which there's plenty to burn a steak or a hot dog down there. So that heat is going to take some moisture out of there, heat the wood, and it's going to disappear quite readily. Those lower dead ones will burn through, they'll fall in, and this stuff will go in between the grate that we created, and it seems to be quite thoroughly turned into charcoal through this process. So that's going to do it for this phase. Jenna, how many hours have we been at this, Jenna?
4.5.
I'm not finding any big chunks in there. I think in some instances we could just call it a day.
Yep.
Especially since I know we're not going to finish all of the material.
Right.
You can notice some of the barrel is compromised, so I'm just going to turn on the water and
Fill her up. Okay, I'll get the hose. So this is the spigot that Brian created. So none of the plastic will melt. So you can just hang this on the outside. So it's going to fill bottom up. It'll be extinguishing everything at the bottom, and then that'll give a couple minutes for those top couple pieces to char a little more. And if they don't completely char, that's fine. We'll use it to start the process tomorrow. So that's how we do it, and I'm sure other people have other ways of doing it. Call it a quit.
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Here we are. This is our booty. All this char, but we're not done yet. What are we gonna do with it next?
They say grass clippings break down very quickly, so we rototill the charcoal into the fresh grass clippings. But first we grind it up a little smaller. So we usually pour some water in this after we get done to cut down on the dust, which you're about to see a little bit of.
But this was soaked, so it's wet. If it were dry, it would go into dust and it would be awful to be breathing. So since it's wet, it doesn't go in our lungs as readily. And this whole mound is spring cuttings. This isn't all grass. Brian's been tilling this in, and essentially really nice soil, organic matter.
And this pile started in
Maybe 2 months ago?
late February.
Sure. Yeah, because the other stuff we put in the garden. We keep tilling it in. And it is nice stuff. And remember, when you break it up, you're opening up more pores. Because biochar is an amendment that holds on to fertilizers and minerals. So that's why we're not just leaving it like this and heaping it into the compost. Because there's some bigger chunks and it's better broken up into smaller rice-sized pieces. So that's where the Mighty Mac comes in.
So I'm hoping this is going to fire up readily.
Right, it's going to be loud.
And Jenna's not going to shovel, but usually
We both of us do, yeah. Well, I can help. I could set it on the...
Well, just be a few minutes.
Okay. This is what you want. Fine. Brian's going to till it up now. We noticed that grass mixed with char does not get as hot as it's breaking down, like in a normal way, you know, like hot to the touch. It's warm, which is good because it's not killing off all the bacteria. Now, who knows if there's some persistent bacteria we don't want. This has been our new method as of this year. That's the BCS.